Hi, Allegra Ramos here. Happy Thursday. If you've watched me before, then you know that I am your resident brain science based self care first productivity and time management expert. And I am going to be interviewing my friend Jeff Harry today, which is why I am producing this on a Tuesday when I usually go live on Thursday. So, for those of you who usually see me on Thursday, hopefully you catch the Tuesday. If not, you'll catch it as the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. This will be episode 162. And I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend Jeff in just a moment. Before I mention him, I'm just going to say if you're joining me for the first time, welcome. I can see your comments live if you're watching live, so feel free to comment. If you have a question that we can address, I'll be happy to bring that question up. And I am the author of these 4 short read workbooks. They're all workbooks because brain science shows that when you do something, apply something right away, you learn it much better than when you just passively consume it. And I'm so excited to announce that this book right here, my bestseller, 3, 2, 1 Done, 3 Simple Strategies to Get Your To-Do List Done, is now available as an audiobook narrated by moi. That's right. And if you want to get that book, you can find links to that at my website, bywdreams.com. But now I'm going to introduce you to my friend Jeff Harry, positive mindset outlook, TEDx speaker, play expert, public speaker extraordinaire, jazz hands. Jeff Harry, thanks for joining me.
Hey, what's up? Thanks so much for having me. This is exciting.
Yes, we're gonna talk about what Jeff does, all things play. It's a little bit of a break from my typical self-care and productivity, but totally related. Totally related. So I'm sure you'll all get something from that. And before we start our chat, I am going to pull a card from my little box of positive chaos here. I never look at these beforehand, right? So I'm always surprised at what it says, but it's always something interesting and applicable. Okay. Life is best experienced with a sense of awe, wonder, and discovery. Go about life with a child's curiosity.
Ooh,
Oh, this is just for you, Jeff. For
that's
you, right
perfect.
there. Tom Gregory. I have no idea who that is. Thank you, Tom Gregory, for your words of wisdom. I'm going to read it one more time. Life is best experienced with a sense of awe, wonder, and discovery. Go about life with a child's curiosity. So, what does that make you think of, Jeff Harry?
Play. and,
This is such a
it's
lob
perfect.
into.
Literally is perfect. No, because I talk about how play is the opposite of perfection, and perfection is rooted in ego, shame, and constantly trying to be right. Perfection is also rooted in like optimization and being like, I got to get the most out of somebody, almost like treating them like a machine.
Yes.
While play is rooted in curiosity, as Gregory said, Tom Gregory, curiosity, a sense of wonder, a sense of awe. Like, I don't know how this day is going to go, right? You feel that when you travel and you're like, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know the adventure that I'm going to have. And think if you had that travel oriented, play oriented mindset on a regular basis, how much better would your day be? How much more productive would your day be? Right.
Absolutely.
Rather than just stressed out of like, I got to do this and I got to do this perfectly and I got to stay on task and stay on schedule. You don't provide yourself opportunity or the playground to explore your curiosity throughout the day. And then you miss out on the day.
So Jeff is all about bringing play to the workplace, right? So you might be hearing the word play and you're just thinking your personal life or the weekends, but Jeff's talking about Monday through Friday play.
Yeah. And part of the read is there's a guy, author by the name of Stephen Johnson, that's always says you'll find the future where people are having the most fun, right? And I tell that to business leaders all the time because it's like, well, where's all the innovation coming from? Where's all the creativity coming from? If you look, this is my argument when people are like, well, is play profitable? And it's just like, well, if you look at Google, when they first started, like just a few years in, they used to have something called the 20% rule. Gave their staff a fifth of their time to do whatever you want. Do whatever you want with a fifth of your time, as long as it benefits Google, as long as you're creating something for Google.
Right.
What came from that? Gmail, Google News, Google Earth, the foundations of AdSense, which literally pays the bills. The
Yes.
foundation of Google came from play. And I think a lot of times we forget that, right? Especially
Do
a
they
lot of
still have
startups.
that?
What?
Do they still have that 20% time?
Oh, they got rid of it. They got rid of it. They also got
How?
rid of don't be evil. They got and what happened? Focusing on perfection. They went public. Now you have all these other hands in the jar. Everyone wants a piece. Everyone wants, so quarterly results all of a sudden become really important. And you see
Right.
that with any organization, right? Startup organizations at the beginning are very playful, very
Right.
experimental. But once they go public or once they get Series A or Series B funding, then they freak out and everything then has to be measured. And there's so much like, KPIs that need to be done. When
Right.
frankly, at the beginning, you didn't have KPIs and you probably accomplished more when you didn't have them than now than when you have them.
Yeah. Fascinating. So, what's an easy way someone can bring play into their workplace?
Um, the first is hard. You got to fire all the a-holes. Because you got bullies if you got bullies on the playground, right? Or if you got bullies in the boardroom, right? Then it's just not fun. Like, and
Okay,
then
so if
there's
you're a
no,
manager,
yeah.
we can look at it as okay, a long term goal would be making sure that bullying type personalities are not being hired,
Yeah.
right? I'm just trying to think of ways to make it, actionable for people.
Oh, did we lose each other?
You're here.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you were saying?
So I'm just trying to think of ways to make it actionable for people.
Yeah, yeah. So actionable is like, yeah, you first have to ask yourself what work culture is defined by the worst behavior tolerated, right?
Mm,
So you have to look
mm,
at what's the worst behavior that's in your organization so that you're not like doing forced fun. Like I hate forced
yes.
fun. Like, all right, we're
Yes.
all going to go bowling. We're all going to go to an escape room. Like
Right.
that's not helpful at the time. You
Yes.
don't bring play in when there's no trust involved. So
Right.
you really, as a leader, have to first look at like, okay, what are we tolerating? Why are we tolerating that? Can we address that? Right? Are
I
we
like
leading
that.
from a place of humanity? Right? Are we
Yeah.
rolling out AI in a humane sort of way so that we're trusting our staff still? Right? You do all that stuff, and then you create the playground for people to play.
Right.
Right? So you let them play on their own, you have them pursue their zone of genius, the work where they forget about time, the work they would do
Yes.
even if they weren't getting paid to do that work. You give them time and freedom to do that. Hey, let's say you're working with the marketing department, you're like, hey, we always do brainstorming for marketing in this certain way. Let's not do that. Let's
Right.
not have a meeting inside a box room in a box building,
Yeah.
and then try to think outside the box. Let's have no meeting.
We're inside the box, literally.
We're
Yeah.
literally in 4 boxes. Let's have no
Yeah.
meeting. I'm just going to say, I want you to go outside. I want you to go and figure it out there and
Right.
then come back with some ideas, right? Like
Yes.
break the mundane and the monotony of how we're solving problems and play with it. Allow our staff to play.
Yeah.
Um, with
Actually,
also,
I just want to call out something you just said, right? Like, so give people time to think about something. Like, I always hate it whenever I went to a meeting and the
yeah,
agenda was not given to you in advance. It's literally
yeah,
the first time you're seeing the agenda is printed out there at the meeting. Like, that's not helpful. Give people time to think about, prepare, and also for the leader, I don't feel like you've actually thought about this meeting until like 10 minutes before the meeting.
exactly,
If the
exactly.
agenda, yeah. So send out the meeting a week before, you know,
But that
show,
also means they have to be organized enough to do that,
yes,
right?
yes,
So
but,
like you can't be
and
lazy.
that's,
You have to have good leaders in order
yes,
to do this. Or just be like, but think about even the concept of like, okay, we're going to brainstorm all of our ideas and you have 60 minutes to do it. You're not going to get a lot of good ideas that way.
no,
You're
no,
not.
absolutely
Like,
not. Because creativity doesn't work like that.
and I've read, I need to find this study. It was a while ago that I saw this study that a lot of C-suite executives, they asked and they were like 80% of C-suite executives do not share their best idea. So
Why?
most of the because they don't trust their leaders. They think their
Oh,
leaders are going
wow.
to steal the idea. Their leaders are going to claim it's their own, but they don't
Wow.
trust. They don't trust enough to share it. Or maybe they just don't feel the psychological safety to share it because like maybe it's a stupid idea. So if you think about that, most of the products that we are currently have right now are all mediocre. They're all
Right. The best ideas are
version,
being held back.
the crappiest version of the idea because we have not created a safe playground for people to play and share.
Okay, so let's just roll it back really quick just to give people a real world thing that they can do to improve their work life. So
Yeah.
if you have a regularly occurring meeting, which that's already problematic according to some experts, FYI. Like regularly occurring aren't necessarily usually helpful because a lot of times they're just like these pro forma check-ins that people
Yeah.
feel like they have to do. But okay, let's just say you have a meeting that actually is necessary
Yeah.
and you know it's coming up. Send out that agenda a week beforehand so people can actually do some thinking around it because, I'm always telling my clients like I once did a goal setting retreat for a company and they wanted to do 2 days back to back. And I said, you can't prompt people with, hey, what do you want your goals to be? And then expect answers to just like pop up
Yeah.
like that. Like
Yeah.
the answers come to you when you're taking a nap, in the shower, when you're driving, right? Like you need time to breathe. So give people time to breathe over your agenda. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I would even say this because a lot of people are not going to send it out a week in advance because they're just not prepared, you know? So I would say like if you're going to have people think about stuff, give them time to think about it there. Have them read it
Oh,
there,
there you go.
you
There
know?
you go.
But I wouldn't even that still is like
It's a little
in
rushed.
my opinion, too scripted, right? If you want to infuse play, right, first have to create psychological safety. You first have to address the toxicity in your workplace to build trust, right? And then you have to identify your staff and start to give them in their language of appreciation, like so that they feel recognized and feel appreciated, and then give them time. And maybe that starts with you first. What is your zone of genius? Figure out for yourself what is your zone of genius? What is your work where you forget about time? And do that. Just experiment for you, right? Allow yourself to be bored enough at work, maybe for like 10 minutes a day where you're not inundated with information. Be like, what is the work that I love to do? How do I do more of that work for myself? And then once I figure that out for myself, then try to apply that for your staff.
Okay, so let's say you're not at the top of the organization because
Yeah.
a lot of things we're talking about are more top down. Let's say you're at the bottom or even like a little bit above. What are some things that you can do to help lead up in order to bring play into the workplace?
The managing up of play only occurs if you can prove that the play that you're doing is profitable. So, I mean, if we're talking about like a for-profit
For
organization,
profit.
yeah. So if I'm like a manager and and this happens a lot. I've seen this, and consulted around this. If I'm a manager that now has supported my staff, addressed all the toxic issues, and now is giving my staff time where they can be more and more creative. Usually, what then happens is I have higher retention, I have higher productivity, I have higher revenue, and then people are like, "Well, what's we doing in your department?" That's how you do it. You have to like literally prove to them that this is successful for a variety of reasons. Because also when someone's in their zone of genius, when they're at play, they're 5 times more productive. They're 500% more
Right.
productive,
Right.
according to positive psychology studies. So it's like they want to do the work. They're looking forward to doing work rather than just looking at the time and being like, I'm just going to, use my 40 hours and then I'm out of here, right? With a certain level of bitterness. So you can see the comparison between leadership that is leading from a place of play and then leadership that's leading from a place of fear, right? And
Yes.
usually those leaders that are leading from a place of fear are mediocre leaders. They probably shouldn't be leaders in the first place. So that would be the way in which I would do it, is like you have to show what impact play is having for you, and then what impacts play is having for your staff.
And I guess too, as an employee, you can also be on the lookout for cultures that
Yeah,
welcome play versus toxicity.
right, right.
Okay, so you were recently in Germany.
Yeah,
Tell me about that. How was that?
fascinating. I was there for 4 days, super quick. Yeah, but I was doing a TEDx talk in Germany in Karlsruhe or Karlsruhe. And it was about um, how we can heal division through play and how we can actually dismantle hierarchy and, frankly, patriarchy utilizing play.
And I'll include a link in the show notes for anyone who wants to see the TED Talk. But it opens with Jeff. How old were you in the opening story? The
Probably
King of the Hill?
7 or 8. Yeah.
So his first experience with winning as King of the Hill. So do you want to tell us that story a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we all remember in the savagery that was the playground in elementary school and how feral we were. And we had a hill.
That
We had
that
a
one
hill.
that 1 to 200 adult to student ratio, you mean?
Right, exactly. Just sheer chaos. I'm surprised
Yeah.
like more kids didn't like perish during
Right.
that time. But of course,
Get
like,
concussed.
almost every playground has some hill, some place that like,
Mine had no hill, but I can imagine.
like some mound. It could even be a playground structure, right? But
Right, right,
the
right.
goal is
The
very simple.
climbing thing.
Yeah, the goal is very simple. You're just simply trying to get to the top, and you just push everyone else off, right? Very hierarchical, right? And I remember like every day trying to get up to the top of the hill, and I remember the savagery of what people would do, like pulling people's shoes off, pulling their pants down, shoving them, betraying their friends. Um, and one
Can
day
I?
I did that.
Were there girls trying to get to the top of the hill
I
too,
think
or
it was
was
mostly
mostly
dudes.
boys?
It was
Okay.
almost all dudes.
Okay.
And I remember, putting my foot on a kid's face to like
Gosh.
get to the top. And then when I got to the top, like you think that you are gonna feel this elation.
Right.
And
I have the power.
you may feel it for like 20 seconds,
Hmm.
but you feel more of this paranoia that everyone now is like trying to tear you down
Right. You
at
have
the
to
top of the hill.
protect.
And talk about like how this compares to companies,
Hmm.
right? Companies when they first start off are a certain way, but once they collect a lot of money, then they're so worried about losing it all.
Right.
And I talk about the analogy of like King of the Hill is how most people live their lives, like trying to climb this hill and be at the top of the hierarchy so that they don't get forgotten. Um,
Hmm.
and how like it's so depressing up there and so
Right.
lonely. And you can see that with like billionaires where like you would think they'd be the happiest people on earth, and instead they are miserable building bunkers and trying to figure out other ways to like survive and don't trust anybody now that they're in their like palaces alone. And I talked about how play reduces hierarchy. It can reduce the hill, and you can find ways in which you um, remove ego, and you can actually connect with people in a really amazing way. And you see that right now with what's happening with the World Cup. Even with teams that are competing against each other, you see cross culturally people just connecting with each other all around play. They're all
Yeah.
watching this absurd game of a ball being hit in a rectangle, and if it goes into this rectangle score, goal, then they go crazy, right?
More boxes.
It's so arbitrary, right? And they're
Right.
wearing like colors and dressed up, but they're all playing. They're all
Yes.
celebrating play, watching play, and playing themselves.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I'm not following it at all. And yet it's bubbled up in my social media feed, but nothing about the games themselves is bubbling up. What's bubbling up is all of this joy between the fans from
Mhm.
different countries and how much they're enjoying each other and the places that they're in. Like, for instance, there have been a lot of videos by Korean fans
Yep.
in Mexico,
Yep.
loving Mexico.
Yep.
I remember this one who was like, I remember when they announced the games, I was so disappointed that I wasn't going to get to go to the States or this or that. And he's like, but I'm in love with Mexico, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been
You're
really
also
interesting.
seeing like Scottish people in Boston
Yes,
and
Scottish
how
people
much
in Boston.
Boston loved the Scottish people. Then they went to Florida, not as much fans of Florida as they were of
Oh,
Boston.
oh my God.
But
I saw this
watching
whole,
the Scottish, when the Scottish get drunk, they take emergency cones and they try to put them on the heads of statues. So you watch fans of other countries help, and also Bostonians helping them try to get these cones on statues' heads. Like it's hilarious because it feels like a playground, right? And
right.
they're hanging out, right?
Yes. Yes. So you play soccer.
Mhm.
You have an interesting team. Tell us about that.
Well, I'm part of a group that I participate in called Left Wing. It's a footballista group. I talk about it in my TEDx talk, and the only thing that's different about most like pickup soccer games is our rule is the score is always 2-2. And talk about reducing hierarchy is it's like no one's keeping score, right? If
Right.
anything, we remind ourselves after every goal is scored 2-2, which
Right.
then reduces the level of like of anger, right? Or the level of like I have to win. Um, it changes what the goals are because then all of a sudden
Right.
you're more focused on like just getting better or passing the ball or being more respectful of like players that are not as good as you, giving them space, players
Right.
that are as good as you, challenging them. Um, so it changes the whole culture of the game.
Yes.
And some people are not used to it and they can't, they're like, I need to know, I need to win, I need results.
Right.
But a lot of people that are there, even like we've watched kids grow up from when they were like 7 years old playing and now they're like 18 years old and they have that philosophy in their life. Score's always 2-2, always looking out for other people.
Well, it's interesting because I love how you said it changes the goal
Yeah.
of the game. And some people might not be comfortable with not having a clear end point,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because it's not like you all say to each other, so the goal is everyone should touch the ball an equal amount of times. Like, that's not the goal, right? The goal is just to play a soccer
Yeah.
game without focusing on a score.
Yeah.
It's interesting because my favorite pool play is to use the cellulose sponges
Uh-huh.
and to have sponge fights, right?
Nice.
And it's fun. Like, I got into sponge fights because I wanted a more sustainable version of water balloons, right?
Yeah.
Because water balloons,
Yeah, they
late,
explode and then it's over. Yeah.
it's over. And also, latex is not as biodegradable as you think it
Yeah,
is.
exactly. Yeah.
So sponges are great because they're auto loading. But the
Yeah.
other thing that's really nice about sponges is that you can throw it as you can whale that sponge as hard as you
Yeah.
want. It does not hurt.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's some people who like water balloon fights because they want to kind of
They were.
hurt the person.
They do. They kind
Yeah.
of they want the person to be like, ow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting is I feel like sponge fights, people laugh so much more. You never
Yep.
hear ow. You never
Yeah.
hear that. And
Yeah.
when you realize that there's no way to throw it to hurt someone, like it's just a totally different game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like that a lot.
I also recently heard, I don't know if it was a comedian or someone like that, but they were talking about how we talk a ton about political ideology and like how people get to a certain ideology. And he was like, no, I think it starts with personality and personality leads to ideology. So if you notice someone that's like really into fascism, they were really into bullying. Like they
Mm,
really want winning is like their thing. And it just so happens that then they eventually get to believing in like this dictatorial way because they like power.
because
They
it's
like,
aligned with winning.
yeah, it's aligned with winning. It's aligned with like feeling superior to others, right? While others are just like, I'm just here just to hang and have fun. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, now I probably understand your ideology because it probably more aligns with Zoran's democratic socialist because
Right.
you are a certain way.
Yeah, you're more of a group
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, thinking again about FIFA, it just reminds me of something I read a long time ago. I don't remember, but it was specifically around groups who have trouble living together, and they found that when they could find a common interest, specifically soccer in this study,
Mm-hmm.
where they had two soccer teams and they mixed the groups up.
Yeah.
I mean, they knew they were part of a social experiment, right? But
Yeah.
these groups came in with animosity towards each other. And then they mixed the players up. And it was something like they tried different things. Like sometimes they made the minority player the captain of the team.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, all these different things. But they found that once you find a common interest with someone with whom you are ideologically opposed,
Yeah.
that common interest is so powerful. Like the love for soccer
Yeah.
was so powerful in breaking down the walls. So,
Yeah.
like, if you can find a way to play with people that you're not getting along with.
They did Heineken did a really
Oh, yes, I
interesting
remember that.
ad where they built a bar together. And that
Yes.
was the play. The play was to build a bar with someone you don't
Yes.
know, a complete stranger. And then finally, when the bar was ready, then they were going to have a Heineken. But before they had that, they would play videos of that person's political ideology.
Right.
And you'd have maybe someone that was gay or someone that identifies as trans next to someone that is MAGA, and they would, and this is after they've hung out building
Right.
this bar this whole time, and then it was just like, well, do you still want to have a beer with this person?
Right.
And I'm sure they cut it in a certain way that makes you feel good, but I think all
A
of the people,
100% they showed.
100% of the people that they showed were like, I'm going to sit down, and that's the healing aspect of play, right?
Yes.
And I think I bring this up even in my TEDx talk of like, play was able to stop a world war for a day. And a lot of people don't know about the story of Christmas in the trenches, but back in World War One, this was like 3 months into the war. You have a lot of 18, 19-year-old indoctrinated men, like kids that don't really know what they're doing there. And on Christmas Eve, after they had like barraged each other all day, have been shooting each other all day, and there's like dead bodies in no man's land. They're sitting there silent on Christmas Eve, and then all of a sudden, some English soldiers heard a German soldier singing Silent Night, and then they joined in with that person, and then there was an Irish guy apparently with like bagpipes, and he joined in, and they started singing carols over the trench. And then at some point, a German soldier came out, walked into the middle of the field, and met an Englishman, and they traded like chocolates and cigarettes and hung out. And then all these other soldiers came out, and then they played soccer or football on the pitch. Where like, they first like removed all the soldiers that were had died there, and then they literally played on the pitch. And that was part of the reason why I did the TEDx talk in Germany, is because
Right.
Karlsruhe is not that far from where some of those battles actually occurred. And it's fascinating because a lot of the Germans know that story. Most Americans do not know that story. I've never heard that story. So that was a big reason why I told it in that TEDx talk. But the most fascinating part of that story is the next day when the soldiers went back to their trench and they were told to fire upon each other, they couldn't. Couldn't, because now they saw the humanity in someone that at one point they were trying to kill.
Right.
And they had to pull people off the line. And this happened all along that Western Front. And there were some people that even took the risk of going out and got shot,
Yeah.
And that's how much they desired connection, community, joy, and play, that they were willing to risk their life just for that. So like, that's how powerful play can actually be, that it can literally stop a world war for like a day. So like, what else can play then do in your life?
Right. I also always think of when I'm traveling, when I'm in a foreign country and you meet another American,
Mm.
all of a sudden you're best friends. You're like,
Hmm.
let's hang out, let's have dinner together, whatever. You don't ask them anything about their ideology.
Yep.
You
Yep.
just share a connection. And it's like if we can just go about that like in our daily life more, I think a lot of people would find that they would want a Heineken or want
Right.
to play a game with or want to have
Right.
a dinner with that person that they just met.
But that you then, for you to do that, you have to be curious, and you
Yes.
have to like have let
You have
go
to
of
have
the
a sense of awe
yeah,
and
sense of
wonder.
awe. And it's hard to have a sense of awe when you have responsibilities and you have a job and you have all these things on your to-do list. So it's challenging to do that. So it's like it's almost like pausing for the moment, for any of your listeners to think about like, okay, when is a moment where I can just sit in awe? When is it a moment where I can have a travel-oriented mindset when I'm like going to the grocery or I'm going into a meeting or whatever it is, and again, taking something mundane and playing with it, like
Yeah.
having fun with it.
I mean, I think that's the struggle, but that's also where you change your everyday experience. Like, I
Yeah.
literally never feel road rage. Like, my
Mm,
husband is shocked at how someone will cut me off and I
yeah.
won't say a thing. And I'm like, what's the point? They
Yeah.
can't hear me. All that happens
Yeah.
is I elevate my stress, cortisol,
Right.
heart rate, whatever. Like, this is an opportunity for me to just be glad that they did not hit my car, you
Yeah,
know?
and what is it? Expectations are the thief of joy, right? So
Well,
that's
comparison.
so
I mean, I think lots of things are
it's
the thief of
compare.
joy.
I use both. I use both
Right.
comparison and expectations because expectations, you're like, well, I should have got there already. I
Right.
should have been there already. Like I didn't know it was going to be this level of track. So your constant like anger that what
Yeah.
you expected has not achieved, then you're like angry about it, and you're literally taking joy away from yourself at that moment rather than being like, I'm here and this is how fast we're going to go.
Yeah.
We're going to go 5 miles an hour. And maybe this gives me an opportunity to talk to my husband or have
Right.
a really good conversation. Like, this is where the curiosity can actually take away the anxiety that a lot of people have.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also like the idea too of, anytime I am in traffic or something, I'm like, oh, good. I missed that accident up ahead or whatever
Right. Oh,
that,
right.
you might have been in. Like, there's so many
Right.
stories you can read that are like that, where you were
We'll talk
supposed to
about
turn
like you're
left.
playing with your imagination at that point to
Yeah.
like de-stress yourself
Yeah.
and actually be grateful for where you're at, which is really interesting. A lot of people can do that anytime if they want to.
Yes. I mean, I think that's one of the great things about doing comedy, right?
Hmm.
Here's this thing that for most people is just a heart attack waiting to happen, right? The amount of
Yeah.
anxiety and stress. And I
Yeah.
can tell you, according to my Fitbit, I am having some sort of coronary
Yeah.
event,
Yeah.
but I am choosing to not let that get in the way of me doing the thing I want to do. So it's not that I'm not experiencing the adrenaline. It's not that I'm not having the heart stuff happening, but it's all about your attitude.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say also with comedy is you're also when you're most yourself and you're most in tune with your comedy like soul, it feels like play, right? It feels like,
Absolutely.
and then you're totally attuning, which is another form of play with the audience because they think the thing you're funny is funny, like, and you're,
Yeah,
you're almost vibing with the audience and you're almost going back and forth. And it's this really
absolutely.
full dance that you're doing,
Yeah,
right? And
sometimes the biggest laughs are when something doesn't land
right.
and you say, "Huh, I thought that was funny." And then you get a big laugh
Yeah. Yeah.
versus the comedian who you can tell they just want to get off the stage and they're just
Right.
joke 1, joke 2, joke 3.
Going to deliver the joke and then you a lot of time I remember when I was trying to do comedy and I did a ridiculous amount of shows like over 100. I didn't understand why sometimes I was successful and sometimes I wasn't, and only now that I'm a speaker and I'm just traveling and always speaking, like there's a certain level of groundedness and understanding who you are in that moment and how that's communicated in your tone and your level of confidence that totally affects the audience. Maybe no one else can notice it, but you notice it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be laid back a little bit. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. It was such a joy to have you on the podcast. And I will put links to all the places people can find you. And hey, if you have a company who needs to bring more joy into the workplace, and that's probably most companies, hire Jeff as a speaker. He's available, he's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me. And remember, planning makes everything easier.